My name is Chris, and here at Spell Table Splits, we like to play uncurated, unmodified decks from our personal collections, really leaning on the Rule Zero and pregame conversation to guide how our games are going to go. Starting us off today, I'm going to be playing my Zinnia Valley's Voice deck. I filled this deck with 50 creatures, some there for utility, some are there because they care about other creatures entering the battlefield, and there are some in there that really help get my game plan across the finish line. Regardless, though, all the creatures are in this deck so that I can double them with my commander Zinnia's offspring ability. Mark is playing Yargle and Multani. This is a 18-6 big beefy monstrosity that wants to get into play, deal a bunch of damage, draw a bunch of cards so that it can deal a bunch of damage and draw a bunch of cards. This deck is filled with fight spells, powers matter spells, and cards that just lets him sling his commander's power around to really show the table that you don't need fancy abilities to get the job done. Will is going to be playing Captain Ingathrod. This is a horror type deck where he's filled the deck with horrors and ways of getting his creatures in the red zone to deal damage using his commander's ability to cast or reanimate spells from his opponent's graveyard after he has them mill them. He wants to punish the table by taking what they wanted to do to him and flipping it on its head. Ashley is playing the Indoraptor. This is a dinosaur kindred deck. She's filled the deck with all the artwork from the Jurassic Secret Layers and release that came out a while ago. The goal of the deck is to have the Indoraptor come in with a bunch of counters by dealing damage to the table, and then deal damage to the Indoraptor so that it can deal direct damage again to the table. So it's a repeating loop that causes a lot of pain. That's going to do it for describing what the decks are doing today. Let's go ahead and get into the gameplay. I start by playing the plains, then I cast Soul Warden and pass. Mark plays a forest and pass. Will plays Underground River and pass. Ashley plays a mountain and pass. I play another plains, then I cast Liquid Metal Torque and pass. It's a mana rock that lets me give permanents the artifact type until end of turn. Mark casts Mary's Guile, which during his upkeep, he looks at his top 3 cards and puts them back in any order. He passes to Will, who plays a Myriad Landscape and pass. Ashley plays Wooded Foothills. She'll immediately crack it for Overgrown Tomb, shocking it in. Then she casts Arcane Signet and pass to me. I play Glasspool Shore, tapped. Then I cast Giver of Runes. From there I cast Skull Clamp, and I equip my Giver of Runes with Skull Clamp and pass the turn. Mark does his Mary's Guile trigger. Then he plays Cabal Stronghold. After that he casts Mind Stone and passes to Will. Will plays an island. He uses his 2 mana to crack Myriad Landscape. He'll search for 2 swamps and pass. Ashley plays Bloodstained Mire. She cracks it to fetch 4 Azir Taur's Proving Ground into play tapped. After that, she casts Outcaster Trailblazer. When it enters, she adds 1 mana of any color, and whenever another creature with power 4 or greater enters, she draws a card. She'll pass it to me from there. I cast Recruiter of the Guard. When it enters, I tutor for Knight of the White Orchid. Move into combat, I send my Soul Warden at will for 1 damage and pass the turn. Mark casts Wood Elves. When it enters, he searches for an Underground Mortuary. When that enters, he'll surveil 1 card, leaving it on top of his library. Then he casts Rancor, enchanting his Wood Elves. It gives enchanted creature +2/+0 and trample. And when Rancor is put into his graveyard from the battlefield, he returns it to his hand. From there, the turn goes over to Will. Will plays an island, then he casts Vashta Narada. It has Indestructible, Shadow, and Morbid. At the beginning of each instep, if a creature died this turn, it gets a Timmy counter. He'll pass it after that. Ashley plays Deathcap Glade, then she casts Spinosaurus. It gives her dinosaurs haste, and it enters with a 3/3 dino. It triggers Outcaster Trailblazer, so she'll draw a card. Moving to combat, she sends the 3/3 dino at Mark, unblocked, and pass the turn. I'll cast the Knight of the White Orchid I tutored for. When it enters, I get Elegant Parlor into play tapped. I surveil, leaving the card on top. Then I equip Recruiter of the Guard with Skull Clamp. When it dies, I draw 2 cards. Lastly, I play Burrow's Garrison, picking up a plains and passing the turn. Mark casts Cultivate. He puts a swamp into play, and he puts a forest into his hand. He'll play the forest, then he casts Selvala, Heart of the Wilds. Whenever another creature enters, its controller can draw a card if it has the biggest power on the field. It also lets him make X mana, where X is the greatest power among creatures he controls. He'll pass it after that. Will plays Clearwater Pathway, then he casts Arcane Heist. He can cast an instant or sorcery from an opponent's graveyard for free 99. It has Cipher, so he encodes it onto his Vashta Narada so that whenever his unblockable, indestructible creature connects, he gets another cast of Arcane Heist. The spell he chooses to cast is Mark's Cultivate. He'll get a swamp, and he'll get an island. The swamp goes into play tapped, and he passes the turn. Ashley casts Triceratops, which is a Wayward Sawtooth. It allows her to play extra lands. She draws a card from Outcaster Trigger. She plays Slitherboar Pathway and a mountain as her 2 lands for turn. Moving to combat, she sends her 5/5 Hasted Dino over at me. Her 3/3 token also goes at me. And the 4/4 Spinosaurus also goes at me. And the 4/2 Outcaster is going to go over to Will. I respond by tapping Giver of Runes, giving my Knight of the Wildcat protection from green. I block the Triceratops with my Knight and take 7 damage. Will can't block, so he takes 4. During main phase 2, she casts her commander, Indoraptor, the perfect hybrid. She has Bloodthirsty X, where X is the damage dealt to Ashley's opponents this turn, so she enters with 11 Timmy counters. She also has Menace and an Enrage trigger, dealing damage equal to her power to a random opponent. The chunky commander triggers Outcast, so Ash draws a card and passes the turn. Remembering Selvala, Ashley draws 2 cards, one from the Triceratops and another from her commander entering, since they were the biggest power when they entered. I start my turn by casting my commander, Zinnia, Valley's Voice. Zinnia gives my creatures offspring and gets +X/+0, where X is the number of creatures I control, with base power 1. Then I play a Plains, and I'll cast Charismatic Conqueror, paying for its offspring cost, thanks to my commander. Whenever an artifact or creature an opponent controls enters untapped, they may tap that permanent. If they don't, I create a 1/1 white vampire creature token with lifelink. When it enters, I get a copy thanks to offspring. Then I pass it over to Mark. He plays a swamp. Then he casts his commander, Yargle and Multani, an 18/6 vanilla creature that's not so vanilla. It enters untapped, so I get 2 1/1 vampires. He'll draw a card from Selvala because 18/6. Then he activates Selvala for 18 green mana. With it, he casts Zopandro Hunger Dominus, which doubles his creature's power and toughness at the beginning of each combat until end of turn. It comes in untapped, so I get 2 vampire tokens. Lastly, he casts Hunter's Prowess targeting Wood Elves. It gets +3/+3, trample, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, he draws that many cards. Moving to combat, he sends his 12/8 creature over at Will unblocked. Will takes the damage and Mark draws 12 cards. Mark discards a ton and passes the turn. Will starts by playing an island. Then he casts his commander, Captain Angathrod. It gives his horrors Menace, and whenever a horror he controls deal combat damage to a player, that player mills that many cards. Then at the beginning of his end step, he chooses target artifact or creature card in an opponent's graveyard that was put there from their library this turn, and he reanimates it. Moving to combat, he sends his shadow creature at me for 1 damage unblocked. With his commander's trigger, I mill Soul Ring. Will moves to his end step, and he puts my Soul Ring into play. Ashley plays Llanowar Wastes. Then she plays Sokenzan Crucible of Defiance. After that, she casts Bonehorde Dracosaur. It's a dragon dinosaur that lets her exile the top 2 cards of her library at upkeep and play them that turn. If a land is exiled, she gets a 3/1, and if a non-land card was exiled, she gets a treasure. Then she'll cast Into the Fire, choosing to deal 2 damage to each creature, planeswalker, and battle. First, I get 2 vampire tokens, gaining me 2 life because Bonehorde came in untapped. I'll use Giver of Runes to give Charismatic Conqueror protection from red. All creatures are dealt 2 damage, triggering Indoraptor. I'm chosen at random to take 14 Indoraptor damage from its Enrage trigger. Moving to combat, she sends the 5/5 flyer at me, unblocked. After decimating my board, she'll pass the turn over to me. I play Riverglide Pathway. Then I cast Suture Priest, paying for offspring. Whenever another creature I control enters, I may gain a life. And whenever a creature an opponent controls enters, I may have that player lose 1 life. We remember that Will's Vashta Narada was indestructible, so we'll put that back in play, and it'll enter with the Timmy counter because a creature died at end step. Then I cast Flesh Duplicate, having it enter as a copy of Charismatic Conqueror. I pay its offspring cost, so I get 2 of them, gaining myself 4 life. Moving to combat, I send my 4/3 commander at Ashley, unblocked before passing the turn. Mark plays Undergrowth Stadium. We also catch that Outcaster Trailblazer only has 2 toughness and should also cease to exist. Then Mark casts Rancor targeting Yargle and Multani. Moving to combat, Yargle becomes a massive 40-12 trampler thanks to his open draw. He sends the big body Yargle and Multani at will, taking him out of the game. After combat, he casts Ram Through, having Yargle fight Ashley's 3/3 dinosaur, dealing 37 damage to Ashley, also taking her out of the game. Then he'll cast Essence Harvest that reads target player loses X life and he gains X life, where X is the greatest power among creatures he controls. At the moment, that's 40. I respond by casting Solitude, discarding a white card targeting Yargle Motani to exile it. He responds by tapping Selvala for 40 green mana. Yargle gets exiled and Mark gains 40 life. Then Essence Harvest happens and I lose 8 life with Mark gaining 8 life. After that, Mark casts Beast Within targeting my Zinnia. Lastly, he'll cast Torment of Hellfire for X equals 37, which is more than enough damage to take me out of the game. Mark takes it this week with Yargle and Multani. If you enjoyed the game this week, don't forget to do the algorithm stuff down below, and until next time, I'll see you at the table.